people look for that in music as well, where, you know, a young person or someone, you know, actually, I mean, there's a lot of older people that idolize you because it's really just an idea of the reality. It's not the reality. So in our song Idol, I was referencing all these, you know, the drugs, the violence, and all the things that that you go through, or that we went through, or that I went through in that specific case. And so when people idolize that, I'm like, you don't even know like what you're talking about. You think they have an idea. And just like with politicians, they think, oh, this guy's such a good guy and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, these guys sell their souls just to get up there and be in that position. And I'm not just talking about in the US, politicians in general. So why would you look? All of them are probably pretty bad people. That's how they get there. They sold their soul to somebody to get to where they are. So none of these people are going to come save you. I'm not going to come save you. No one's going to save you but yourself. So that's really what Idol references is like, at one point, people got to start looking in the mirror and trying to figure out who they are, because no one's going to, you shouldn't want someone else to tell you who you are.
Going back to Heart of a Champion, then that mentality of not being beat down by the obstacles you face in life, but just kind of to work through them. How did that become a prominent thing on this second half of the record?
I think, you know, like it's kind of, I thought it was necessary to go there. So when we wrote this stuff, you know, the times are pretty crazy right now. Even by my standards, I'm like, geez, this is fucking nuts. And you know, it's interesting too, because typically cultural issues are isolated to geography. You know, I live in the States. Something crazy could be happening over in the Middle East or in South America, but you're very distanced from it. Or if something crazy is happening over here, it's not really going to affect, except if you pay attention. But most people, you know, you can unplug and go away from it. Now, this is actually, for the first time in my life, an actual global crisis. Outside of maybe the Cold War, I'm not aware of anything historically that has affected the whole world like this. Even the world wars, much of the world didn't give a goddamn. They didn't even know what was going on, right. Outside of Europe and the US. So it's one of those things where I think we're all now tied together, for better or for worse. And it's an interesting thing because now you can kind of talk to everybody. And we, in my opinion, all of us have a choice to make. Like, we're either going to make this better or we're going to make this worse. And it's, I think the best way to make it better, the way I look at COVID and this pandemic and all these things is it's kind of like it's a challenge. Like, are we gonna lose? Are we gonna fuck this up? Are we gonna make this a worse place to be? Or are we gonna use it to learn and to make it better? And I think that's kind of where the music ties into a lot of this stuff. Is I think people think life is easy, especially, you know, they expect it to be easy. And the truth is it's quite difficult. And so you have to have that self-reliance, that heart of a champion in order to get through it. Because the truth is, like I said, no one's coming to save anybody. There's no one better or worse than you. So if you can't take responsibility and figure out how to move forward in life without someone telling you how, you're probably fucked.
And how does it, because music can also play a different part in it, in becoming kind of like an escape or a refuge in difficult times. So
yeah.
How do you see not just your own album, but how do you see music contributing to this idea of mental fortitude, so to say?
Well, I mean, I know, at least and I can only really speak for myself, but if I'm having a rough day or a rough time, or if I'm having a great day, the first thing I do is I start blasting music. Music is kind of the soundtrack of our lives. It's not just something that's going on in the background. You know, I think culturally, music is probably the most important art form that we have. I love to read, for instance, but literature isn't the same. It doesn't incite those kinds of, I think music is a catharsis for people. And I think without it, the world's crazy, but without music, it'd be a lot fucking crazier. And I think it plays a very big role in everybody's. I've never met a single person who said, I know people who don't read. I know people who don't watch TV. I don't watch TV. I've never met a single person. No, I don't listen to music. That would be insane to even hear. What, you don't listen to anything? So music, I think, is in everybody's blood. I mean, it's such a big part of everybody's lives, whether it's the same music or different music. It still plays a huge role in all of our consciousness. So I think the one way, I've said this before, but it's still true today, that, you know, the term math is the universal language, because all of us don't speak. But I've always felt that music is really more the universal language. And if you can find things that will change your life in music. And I'm not aware of any other, I've never, at least myself, been a part of anything else that can tie to, like, you know, we go play in Russia, some kid I would never meet in my whole life, and we're tied together because of music, not because I'm hanging out, not because I flew to Russia to go sit around, chill with people, you know, which I love to do. But really the only reason I'm there and the only reason that kid's there, we would never normally cross paths in the universe, is because of music. And I don't know of anything that brings people together like that. And
with that in mind then, because obviously you're releasing a record and you're working on it and have been working on it, what kind of what has that done for you personally, that you have this outlet in a way in these times?
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like I'd be crazy if I didn't have it, if I couldn't write and if I couldn't hear it. It's what I think everybody has to find that thing for themselves. And like many people, music is that thing for me. And if I didn't have that, I'd be running in circles in life. It's like, it gives me direction. It gives me something to care about, to be passionate about. And everybody needs something like that. Otherwise, life is, you're just spinning your wheels for no reason. So for me, it keeps me sane.
And then you mentioned direction, so I'm thinking musical direction as well. And as you mentioned earlier, it's always been very, very diverse, and like there are no rules. You can do whatever you like. So what has been the approach now to this latest batch of songs for the New Empire Volume 2?
I mean, for us, we don't. Life just happens. So like, I've never had to sit there and like try to be inspired. All you have to do is look around. So I know some guys like to write like concept records, or because you know they want to write about a specific subject. I just let it come from what happens on a day-to-day basis and stuff. All you have to do is look around. There's music everywhere. So for me, I use the environment. I use if it's a personal song, I use what's going on in my life, because life's never perfect. There's always something there that's worth a song. And I think for us, we just try and write about the moment. I don't really dig into anything. I don't need to go, oh man, I'm pissed about this thing that happened to me when I was 6. Like, I've already dug all that out. So now I just kind of, I use other people's experiences more than I used to too. I can look at another band's life and go, okay, like this is what I would say if I was him. And I just use the moment.
When it comes to a song like Coming Home then, because that's also about being away, and then kind of that now you're home all the time. Is that a strange song at the moment for you?
That's what cursed us, bro. I shouldn't have written that song. No, being home all the time is a very weird, after touring for so many years. It's been difficult, but coming up, it's always hard. I have children,
Sure.
I have a wife and those things. So it was always hard for me, and I have for a long time. I had my first kid when I was pretty young. So it was always difficult missing her birthday, the holidays, things like that people take for granted because they don't, not that it's, I understand other people have their own lives, but for me, it was really difficult. So we just wrote that about, because we've been together on the road plenty of times where everybody would give anything to just be home and, in their own world, in their own environment, because it's lonely out there sometimes.
Sure.
So that's really the inspiration for the song. Now, being home now for, 6 months or whatever, since this thing started, I try and put it all in perspective and go, a lot of people have lost their lives. A lot of people have lost their livelihoods. And I just try and put it in perspective and go, okay, well, what good can come from this? There has to be some silver lining here. And my hope has always been that it's going to bring people together, because like I said, this is the first time globally where we've all had the same problem. We all got the same problem. Usually some other buddy play, and so I hope that some good comes from it all. And me being home all the time is some good. I make sure that, I use music and I do those things, and maybe I'll get a couple good songs out of this whole thing. So I think the key is you have to make the best of whatever you're given. And this has definitely put that challenge to the test for everyone.
Sure. Finally, then, I think the release date is December 4th for this volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope once it's released? What do you hope people will hear in it?
I hope they just find something that's meaningful to them. That's all I always hope for. It may not be the same thing that was meaningful for me about it, but I hope that they get something great from it. And, for me, I have those songs that I'm just like, I feel like if I didn't hear them, my life would be a little different. There's very few of those. Most of them are Beatles songs or some old song that I heard that I'm like, man, I want to write music or something like that. It made me want to be a musician. It made me know that I could be better at it, and all those things. You hear those songs. So I always hope that just somebody out there hears it and goes, I'm going to change my life because of this. I'm going to do this because of this. And obviously you want people to enjoy it, but more than anything on a larger scale, I just hope someone hears it and goes, okay, maybe I want to be in a band. Maybe this is really what I want to do. Or, maybe I really should change my life because it's getting flushed down the toilet, or I got to stop doing drugs. Anything that you can cause a shift in someone's life is what you always hope for.
Well, the final question, and you mentioned the Beatles and those kind of things, but can you name one artist or one song that maybe in the past 5 to 10 years has affected you significantly?
More recently, Move.
Or is it only old school music?
I mean, no, there's bands that I really like, but shifted me. No, like, okay. I still listen to a lot of new bands. I like I Prevail, and I like the Deftones and people that are still putting out music. But I think those shifts typically happen when you're really young. So it's like back then when I was a kid, that's when Korn was big and bands like that. And I liked all that heavy stuff. But my dad, who was obviously a lot older, he would play the Beatles, the Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Neil Young and those things. So those are the artists that I was like, but Old Man by Neil Young was one of them. Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles is another one. Have You Ever Seen the Rain by Creedence? It's like, those are those, because my mind was like a sponge then. You're soaking this stuff in. And as we get older, it's very hard to maintain that because we become jaded and we have experiences. We get our hearts broken. Our parents turn out to be assholes, whatever it is. And slowly that sponge turns hard, and it's hard to get anything new in there. And that's why being young, it's so important for everybody to play a positive influence if they can on a young person's mind, because there's only so much time that our conscious mind can accept information. And so recently, no, that's not because that music doesn't exist, but I'm all dried up, dude. I'm like I'm a reef. I'm a barrier reef. It's all hard and rocky in my brain now.
Fair enough. Johnny, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure, man.